The Philippine Navy is entering a decisive period of transformation, driven by heightened tensions in the West Philippine Sea and the practical limits of maintaining an aging fleet. For decades, the force relied on ships that were adequate for constabulary and near-shore missions, but offered little in the way of deterrence against modern threats. As rival Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels grew larger, more aggressive, and better equipped, the shortcomings of the old fleet became increasingly visible. The decision to retire a wide range of ships built between the 1940s and 1970s is not merely a logistical adjustment. It marks a structural reset of the Navy's identity, capability, and long-term strategy. The period from 2025 to 2027 will see the most extensive fleet retirement in modern Philippine history, and the impact will ripple across operational planning, alliance cooperation, and the procurement priorities of Horizon 3. The most prominent group of ships expected to leave service soon comes from the Malvar class. These vessels, originally constructed in the era of the Second World War and transferred decades later, have already exceeded the typical lifespan of naval platforms. Some hulls are approaching 80 years of service. Their engines require constant repairs, their radar and sensor suites are obsolete, and their capacity to operate in rough seas has diminished. More critically, these vessels cannot integrate modern weapons or updated communication systems without costly and impractical modifications. In the early 2000s, they were still useful for showing presence, ferrying personnel, and assisting in humanitarian missions. Today, their roles have been reduced to patrolling close to shorelines, and even these missions are increasingly taken over by the Philippine Coast Guard. The consensus within the Philippine Navy and the Department of National Defense is that all remaining Malvar-class ships will be fully retired by 2027. Another category set for retirement is the Kagitingan class, which represents an early effort at domestic shipbuilding. The design, however, suffered from stability issues, and its weapons and sensor configuration became outdated long before tensions in the West Philippine Sea escalated. These ships lack the endurance, survivability, and reliability required for wide-area maritime security missions. Several have already been pulled from service, and the rest are expected to follow in the coming few years. Their departure will close a chapter on an experimental phase of the Philippine shipbuilding industry and clear the way for more dependable platforms sourced from foreign partners. The list of ships approaching retirement also includes auxiliary and support vessels with lifespans ranging from 40 to 60 years. Many were designed for transport or logistical tasks in calmer and more predictable environments. In the current geopolitical climate, such vessels struggle to keep pace with extended patrols or rapid response missions. Their limited electrical capacity, outdated navigation systems, and slow cruising speeds make them liabilities rather than assets. The Navy has already begun transitioning to newer auxiliary ships acquired from South Korea and Japan, which offer improved fuel efficiency, better seakeeping performance, and sufficient space for modern equipment. There is also a group of vessels originally built for Coast Guard duties and later transferred or repurposed for naval use. Although these hulls once filled important gaps, especially during periods when the Navy lacked dedicated patrol ships, their usefulness has sharply declined. Many cannot mount updated weapon stations or withstand prolonged exposure in contested waters. Ships of this category have quietly begun leaving service as the fleet reorganizes around purpose-built patrol vessels. The rationale behind this sweeping retirement is rooted in a combination of practicality and strategic necessity. First, these older vessels no longer meet the performance standards required for modern maritime operations. Their speed, endurance, and electronic capabilities are outmatched by the ships operated by regional competitors, particularly those used by China's Coast Guard and maritime militia. Second, the maintenance burden of these aging hulls has increased dramatically. Spare parts often need to be fabricated rather than purchased, and downtime for each ship has grown longer. The cost of keeping one of these vessels operational can exceed the value they provide. Third, modernization programs under Horizon 3 demand a shift in priorities. Instead of sustaining a large but outdated fleet, the Philippines aims to build a smaller number of vessels equipped with contemporary sensors, missile systems, and surveillance technologies. The objective mirrors naval modernization models adopted by Japan and Australia, which prioritize quality and survivability. In the short term, the retirement of these vessels will create an undeniable reduction in fleet numbers. The Navy's capacity to maintain a constant presence across its exclusive economic zone will be strained, especially during the transitional phase while waiting for new offshore patrol vessels and frigate variants to be commissioned. The Coast Guard will absorb some of these tasks as it continues to expand its own fleet with Japanese and French-built ships. However, this shift also encourages deeper cooperation with allied navies. The United States, Japan, Australia, and South Korea are likely to play more active roles in joint patrols, maritime domain awareness programs, and multilateral exercises. Such partnerships act as a buffer during the period when the Philippine Navy is reshaping its structure. Despite short-term difficulties, the long-term outcome of the retirement program points toward a more capable, coherent, and future-focused naval force. The backbone of the new fleet will be defined by modern ships such as the Jose Rizal-class frigates, their expected Batch 2 variants, the new Offshore Patrol Vessel class from South Korea, and various support vessels from Japan. These platforms are designed for integration into a networked surveillance and command environment. They will operate alongside land-based radar, long-endurance drones, and air assets like the FA-50 Block 20 light combat aircraft. Together, these capabilities create a maritime architecture built around early detection, rapid response, and credible deterrence. Looking beyond 2030, the Philippine Navy intends to evolve from a traditionally light force posture into a fleet capable of true multi-domain operations. An anti-submarine capability, once absent, is gradually taking shape through investments in towed sonar arrays, maritime helicopters, and improved underwater sensors. The program to acquire the Philippines' first submarines is slowly gaining clarity, with French Scorpion boats currently positioned as the most viable option. Should this plan proceed, it will redefine not only the Navy's operational doctrine, but also the country's strategic calculus in the West Philippine Sea. In essence, the retirement of aging ships is not simply an administrative decision. It is the first step toward constructing a navy that can operate confidently in a region dominated by great power rivalry. The shift from quantity to quality signals an understanding that deterrence in the modern maritime environment relies not on the number of hulls at sea, but on the sophistication, survivability, and integration of those platforms. For the Philippines, letting go of these aging vessels is an acknowledgement of past limitations and a commitment to building a stronger maritime future.